On March 3, 2025, the staff of the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources National Inland Fisheries Technology Center from Tanay Rizal embarked on a significant journey. They set off at approximately 8 a.m., heading towards the Regional Fisheries Training and Fisherfolk Coordination Division, or RFTFCD, in Tabaco City, Albay, Bicol. The purpose of their trip was to participate in the Engendering Fishery Policies, Institutionalizing Gender and Development in the Balik Sigla sa Ilagat Lawa Programs Policies and Plans activity.
Bawat sulok ng Pilipinas, magsisilbing liwanag sa iba't ibang sektor ng lipunan, nagpapakita ng lakas at husay. Para sa lahat ng sektor, naangat ang bukas sa bagong Pilipinas. Ipalan ni FTC, kasama makakatulong sa sektor ng pangisdaan, pagkakapantay-pantay ay susulong.
After 14 hours of travel, they finally arrived at their destination around 10 p.m. Despite the tiredness from the journey, they were filled with anticipation for the upcoming days of learning and collaboration. Little did they know that the experiences and knowledge they would gain during this event would have a profound impact on their work and the future of fishery policies. The second day began with the registration of participants. The staff of BFIR and IFTC from Tanay Rizal eagerly signed in, ready to immerse themselves in another day of learning and growth. Following the registration, the preliminaries commenced. The participants stood in solemn silence as they recited the prayer, sang the national anthem, and then the BFIR hymn. The atmosphere was filled with a sense of pride and unity as they honored their country and their organization. Next, RD Ariel Pio Quinto, Regional Director of BFIR 5, delivered the welcome remarks. His words were filled with enthusiasm and encouragement, setting the tone for the day ahead. He emphasized the importance of the training and the role that the participants would play in engendering fishery policies and institutionalizing gender and development in the BASIL program. After the welcome remarks, Mr. Romualdo Paul, Chief Aquaculturist of BFIR and IFTC and National Focal Person for GAD, delivered a message. He shared his insights and experiences, highlighting the significance of gender equality and the need for gender-responsive policies in the fishery sector. His words resonated with the participants, inspiring them to think critically about their work and the impact it could have on the lives of others. The course orientation and pre-test followed, led by Ms. May Angelica Saludes, a senior GAD specialist of Philippine Commission on Women. The participants were provided with an overview of the training program, including the objectives, topics, and activities. They were then given a pre-test to determine their advanced knowledge about the training. This helped the facilitators to tailor the sessions to the needs and interests of the participants. A release exercise, Me and My Life, was then conducted. The participants were asked to introduce and illustrate their personal and professional life, showing whether they are currently on the top or down of their lives, particularly how they feel right now. This activity provided an opportunity for the participants to reflect on their lives, share their experiences, and connect with each other on a deeper level.
Bawat sulok ng Pilipinas, magsisilbing liwanag sa iba't ibang sektor ng lipunan, nagpapakita ng lakas at husay. Para sa lahat ng sektor, naangat ang bukas sa bagong Pilipinas. Ipalan ni FTC, kasama makakatulong sa sektor ng pangisdaan, pagkakapantay-pantay ay susulong.
The lectures on gender concepts and their relevance for fishery policies were next on the agenda. The participants learned about gender statistics and sex disaggregated data. They learned that these concepts are crucial for getting an accurate understanding of the fishery sector. By analyzing data based on gender, policies can be better informed and tailored to address the specific needs of both men and women in the industry. The lecture on gender-sensitive and gender-responsive policies followed. The participants discovered that these concepts are essential for evaluating how well gender issues are incorporated into fishery policies. A gender-sensitive policy recognizes the differences between genders, while a gender-responsive policy takes active steps to address gender inequalities, ensuring fairness and inclusivity. Finally, the participants explored the umbrella concepts of gender equality and gender equity. They understood that gender equality aims for equal rights and opportunities for all genders, while gender equity focuses on fairness and justice, taking into account the different circumstances of each gender. These concepts are vital for defining clear objectives in fishery policies, promoting a more balanced and just industry.
Edukasyon, sa trabaho, sa politika at iba pang larangan, babae buong tabang nalalaban para sa karapatan at dignidad. Para sa lahat ng sektor, naangat ang hukay sa bagong Pilipinas. Ipalan ni FTC, kasama magkakatulong sa sektor ng pangisdaan, pagkakapantay-pantay ay susulong.
The lectures were informative and engaging, providing the participants with a solid foundation in gender concepts and their application in the fishery sector. The day ended with a workshop on the gender policy tree, the leaves. The participants were asked to draw a big tree in a manila paper and then, based on the GAD basic concepts they had discussed, identify the GAD goals, objectives, impacts, outcomes of the BASIL program. This activity helped the participants to apply the concepts they had learned and to think creatively about how to incorporate gender equality and gender responsiveness into the BASIL program. The third day started with a recap of the previous day's topics. Participants refreshed their understanding of gender concepts, including gender statistics, sex disaggregated data, gender-sensitive and gender-responsive policies, and gender equality and gender equity. This helped them to build upon their knowledge and prepare for the more in-depth discussions that would follow. The first lecture of the day was delivered by Ms. Ria Naborita, a GAD specialist won from the Philippine Commission on Women. She introduced the GAD framework, focusing on gender equality and women's empowerment. Participants learned about the different levels of equality, including welfare, access, conscientization, participation, and control. These levels provide a framework for understanding how gender equality can be achieved in different aspects of life. Following Ms. Ibarreta's lecture, Mr. Cyril Sanchez, a GAD specialist from the Philippine Commission for Women, presented a lecture on social relation frameworks. He discussed the influence of social institutions, such as family, community, market, and state, on gender roles and relations. Participants learned about the importance of analyzing these institutions to identify and address gender inequalities. Mr. Sanchez also introduced the concept of institution analysis, which involves examining the rules, activities, resources, people, and power dynamics within an institution. This analysis helps to understand how institutions perpetuate or challenge gender inequalities. Participants learned about the different aspects of institution analysis and how they can be used to inform policy development and implementation. After Mr. Cyril Sanchez's lecture on social relation frameworks, Ms. May Angelica Saludes took the stage. She presented the list of indicators relevant to the project. Her presentation provided valuable insights into the specific metrics that could be used to measure the success of gender-related initiatives within the fishery sector. Following Ms. Saluda's lecture, the participants engaged in a workshop on the gender policy tree, the trunk. This was a continuation of the previous day's activity on the gender policy tree, the leaves. The participants were now tasked with identifying the GAD activities and indicators of the BASIL program based on the GAD frameworks and indicators they had discussed. The participants worked together in their groups, discussing and analyzing the information they had learned to identify the relevant activities and indicators. An activity on integrating gender issues in the fishery policies followed. This session provided participants with concrete strategies and methods for incorporating gender considerations into their existing and future fishery policies. The activity emphasized the importance of inclusive policy design and implementation, ensuring that the needs and perspectives of both men and women within the fishery sector are adequately addressed. After this activity, the groups will present their outputs from the gender policy tree, the trunk workshop. Each group will share their findings, highlighting the GAD activities and indicators they identified within the BASIL program using framework. This presentation fostered a collaborative environment, allowing participants to learn from one another's insights and perspectives, enriching their understanding of gender integration within fishery policies.
Ay sa lahat ng sektor naangat ang hukay sa bagong Pilipinas. Ipalan ni FTC kasama magkakatulong sa sektor ng pangisdaan. Pagkakapantay-pantay ay susulong. Kasarian na hindi hadlang upang magpamalas ng determinasyon at talino. Sa anumang larangan magagawa ang lahat gamit ang iyong tapang para sa ikaunlad ng bansa at lipunan. Babae sa lahat ng sektor nahanap ang bukas sa bagong Pilipinas. Ipalan ni FTC kasama magkakatulong sa sektor ng pangisdaan. Pagkakapantay-pantay ay susulong.
The day 4 of the Engendering Fishery Policies training marked the beginning of the closing ceremonies. The day commenced with several participants sharing their valuable insights and experiences gained throughout the intensive training program. Their heartfelt impressions highlighted the impact of the lectures, workshops, and collaborative activities on their understanding of gender equality and its significance within the fishery sector. Following these testimonials, certificates of appreciation were presented to the esteemed resource speakers, acknowledging their invaluable contributions to the success of the training. Mr. Romualdo Paul then responded to the participants' impressions, offering further insights and reiterating the importance of the knowledge gained. The day concluded with the awarding of certificates of participation to all attendees, formally recognizing their commitment to gender equality and sustainable fisheries.
Kasarian na hindi hadlang upang magpamalas ng determinasyon at talino. Sa anumang larangan magagawa ang lahat gamit ang iyong tapang para sa ikaunlad ng bansa at lipunan. Babae sa lahat ng sektor nahanap ang bukas sa bagong Pilipinas. Ipalan ni FTC kasama magkakatulong sa sektor ng pangisdaan. Pagkakapantay-pantay ay susulong.
Mr. Adang Jamonti, Senior Aquaculturist of BEFR and IFTC, delivered the closing remarks, summarizing the key takeaways and expressing hope for the continued application of the learned principles in their future endeavors. The resounding success of this training promises a brighter, more equitable future for the Philippine fisheries, empowered by the dedication and newly acquired expertise of its participants.
Tayo'y magkaisa para sa kaunlaran, para sa kababaihan at para sa ating bayan. Babayad sa lahat ng